Well, hey there, YouTube. We got a video for you today. Here's a Ruger American. One of the best rifles you could probably buy for under 500 bucks. And I'll show you why I like it and why I use it as my go-to hunting rifle, and so far have not needed to upgrade because this thing works really well for me. In my setup, I have this scope on here. This is a Vortex Strike Eagle 5 to 25 by 56 on this end. Awesome scope. I think I paid like 700 or 650 or somewhere around there for this, and I really don't think you can get a better first focal plane wide field of view with such a good zoom range on it than this scope. I think this thing is killer. I know they just came out with the I want to say it's like the Venom, and then there's the Diamondback Tacticals. Those are also pretty good for the money, but this thing is amazing. So if you have $650 and you want a first focal plane scope with a good long range zoom on there, this is the one to get. It comes with this scope cap here. This is what I normally carry on there when I go out hunting. It just keeps the water and the snow and dirt and stuff off of it, and the little throw lever that it also came with that I added on here, and that is just a freaking awesome attachment there. So overall, this setup is what I use for hunting, and I guess in this video I'll kind of share why the scope's good, why the rifle's good, why my sling's good, and everything else I have on here as my main hunting setup. So the rifle itself is the Ruger American stainless. So the action is stainless, the barrel is stainless, the bolt is all stainless, the trigger is stainless. The only thing not stainless is this plastic stock. Let me just empty this out. So I got some ammo in here. So I'll show you it's clear. But this plasticky stock is probably the worst part about this gun, because it does kind of move, especially right here on the fore end. It does kind of touch the barrel. On a really hot day like today, if you're trying to shoot and this thing's just sitting out in the sun, this stock may touch the barrel and you might have accuracy issues, or if you're just shooting and your barrel's starting to get too hot, you might have some accuracy issues. But that's pretty much with any gun, and the stock issue is pretty much any cheaper gun. So that's kind of expected. I work around it. It's so far I have not lost an animal that I've shot with this gun. The rubber butt pad here is one of the best butt pads I think I've ever seen. So this thing is just phenomenal. For such a heavy hitter, this kind of soft, squishy, almost silicone type butt pad is just a necessity. I love this thing, and so far I have not needed to change that. I've had this gun for probably 5 years. I want to say about 5 years, and this has kind of been my go-to hunting rifle since, and I've kind of made some adjustments and modifications to it, and I'll show you that today. The trigger on this thing is generally pretty horrible, so you can get a Timney trigger for this for about 150 bucks. That will probably be the best thing you can do. I never went that route. I ended up taking out that little safety thing in there, the little whatever they call the trigger safety. I took that whole thing out just because I did not want that extra moving part. And if you got gloves on, or if your fingers are numb, it's just one extra thing to try to feel. So I took that out, and I don't know if I voided any warranties or anything, but I still have the part and the spring and everything if I ever want to put it all back together. But this trigger, I ended up putting a lighter spring in there that I ordered off of like eBay for $5-10 bucks. That just made it super light. I think it's 32 ounces right now, and I want to say factory was somewhere around 4.5 pounds. So now it's exactly 2 pounds, and 2 pounds for me is just right for a hunting rifle. I do usually carry a chambered with the safety on. I have not had an issue where I would drop the gun and it would fire with a 2-pound trigger. Haven't had that issue, so if you're worried about it and you go my route that I did, I don't think you'll have any issues there either. So a few things I did, other things I did to this thing. This bolt, when you're kind of taking it in and out, it rubs on the action and it sounds like a Megatron Transformers metal sound. I absolutely hated that. So I got some bore polish from, I want to say it's like JB bore, non-embedding bore cleaning compound is what it's called, and I just smeared it on everything, and I just ran this action like 500 times by hand and pretty much lapped the inside of this action. So this thing is so smooth. I absolutely love how this feels now. Basically turned this $450 rifle into probably somewhere around like a $700 rifle with this trigger job I did and making that bolt so smooth. Originally I had this stock painted with a rattle can, painted it kind of flat dark earth color, and then a year or two later it kind of started peeling off in like a camo pattern, so I thought it actually looked pretty cool, so I ended up continuing that camo pattern and used some tape to kind of peel it off in a cool little design. Ran that for a couple years, and then about 2 years ago I decided to strip it all back down to black because I wanted to change the stock. Never got around to doing that, and black stock still stays. Oh, there's a buck running around over there. Nice little buck. If he pops out behind the trees, I'll try to zoom in and get a video of him. So there's that. What else did I do? I ended up putting on this loopholed one-piece rail. It came with like a 2-piece weaver set, and originally I had a Vortex Viper scope on here, and the rings I needed to buy for it, I couldn't find them to fit that one of the pieces of the rail, so I ended up having to upgrade the rail, one of the rails, to fit that one. And then when I got this scope and I had to get these bigger rings, I think these are 30 mil, these are the Vortex Pro precision rings, absolutely love them. I had to get bigger slots, so the weaver slots wouldn't fit. Had to go to the Picatinny style, and decided to go with the one piece. And so this piece is actually somewhere around $40 to $50 at most sporting goods stores. I think I paid like $12 on eBay, brand new, never opened, same exact thing with the loopholed logo written on it. So definitely check YouTube, check eBay for the good deals. I just discovered my phone ran out of storage, and it cut out the video right there, and so now the sun set and it looks not as good as it did before, but I gotta re-record the rest of the video, so here we go. I think I left off talking about the loopholed one-piece rail right there. I don't know exactly what I missed or not, but I'll try to fill in. So I guess I'll talk about the Sling. This is a Mossy Oak brand, neoprene on this side, and kind of like a tan nylon webbing on this side. It's extremely strong. I've had this thing probably the life of this rifle is how long I think I've had this. It did rip, or sorry, it didn't rip. This metal piece broke. So all these buckles are metal. This one's metal. This one down here is all metal, and it actually broke. A little pin fell out. So to replace this thing, instead of replacing the whole thing, I ended up cutting it on the back side, putting a replacement whatever swivel clip thing here, and then sewed it right back on the back side. And it looks like my sewing job worked flawlessly. No sign of it failing at all. Awesome. And then right here, so right to the swivel stud that's on the stock, I attach this little adapter so it screws on to that swivel stud, and it gives you like a little Picatinny rail right here. And so I ended up putting that on, and then I drilled a 1/4 inch hole and tapped it to 1/4 20 threads, and I added this tripod plate. So this is an Arca Swiss 1.5" by 1.5" or so, maybe 1.25" or something like that. Arca Swiss plate. So this will actually sit right on top of my tripod ball head, and I could use my tripod ball head as a shooting platform, so as a bipod or a tripod. And I've never shot an animal, or I've never shot anything with it mounted to the tripod, but just dry firing, like right here, like 400 yards, 700 yards over there, just dry firing, it looked like it was going to do perfectly fine. And I hope to one day have to try it, but with most of my shots being under 400 yards, 300 yards, I have not needed to mount it on a tripod just yet. Overall, I'd give this rifle probably like an 8 out of 10. If Ruger fixed their stocks, it just made like a really nice stock, and I'd be willing to pay an extra, $100 to get a better stock than this. So I don't know how much this stock cost them, maybe $50, but I'd pay you $150 if you made this, stock a little bit nicer and gave a little bit of room here around the barrel. Kind of gave it a little bit more of a vertical pistol grip here, so you could actually hold on to it. Not made it sound so plasticky and hollow. Inside is like a block of styrofoam right here. That just seems so weird. I don't know. Just fill it with like some spray foam or something. But not a bad gun. I mean, I've been using this for about 5 years now, and with the bolt and the trigger mods that I've done, and then having this scope on here, just getting interrupted. With the mods I've done, overall this thing is doing great. Ranch life. So, and then this scope, I don't think you can get a better scope for the price. So I think I paid $700 or maybe like $650 for this scope. I don't think you could find something better in that price range. This is a first focal plane, so if you don't know what that means, you'll have to research that. I can't explain it here in this video, but first focal plane, something that I really wanted to upgrade to from my second focal plane scope I had on here before. When I first bought the gun, the very first thing I put on here, which was my very first scope I've ever bought. I didn't know anything about scopes. This is a first focal plane, which is a huge plus in my book. And then the super far zoom range of 5 to 25 is just extremely useful. I mean, you don't have to shoot at 25 power at 100 yards at a deer or whatever. You keep it down at 10, 15, and it's just fine. But having that option doesn't hurt. I'd rather have more options than less options. So in certain situations, that 25 power could almost be like a spotting scope. So you don't really need it to like hit lungs at 300 yards, but it does help kind of counting points or seeing if there's a fawn behind a doe or something like that, or seeing if there's a cub behind a sow, things like that. So it definitely doesn't hurt having that 5 to 25 zoom range. The 56 optical objective size is, in my book, a necessity for hunting, especially up here where it is so much darker than maybe like Arizona or Texas or something, California. Here in northern Montana, it's you get so much less light, and so yeah, our season still starts about half an hour before shooting light and ends about half an hour after shooting light, on a daily basis. But most of your shots are gonna probably be in low light conditions. So having a 56mm objective definitely helps with the low light gathering capabilities. I know that they say 50 is pretty good, it's better than 44 or whatever. 56 is not much better than 50. In my book, I'd rather carry that extra 5-6 ounces or whatever and get the 56. If I could, I'd carry a 90, I'd carry a 200. I think more light is better for clarity, for being able to tell apart uh, bucks and does and sows and boars, things like that. So it definitely doesn't hurt. This thing's also illuminated. I've never shot an animal or a person, I guess, yet with the reticle illuminated. I don't really think I will need to, but I also don't know. It definitely can't hurt having that option. In situations where it's like dawn, dusk, like right at sunset or just past sunset or whatever, your reticle is black and your background is light enough to shoot, but not light enough to really tell apart your reticle from like trees and things like that. So definitely having an illuminated reticle isn't a bad thing to have, and I believe in Montana you can have illuminated reticles, and you don't need to steer away from illuminated scopes here in Montana. In some states that could be different. But I don't think you can get a better scope for the money. For $650, you'd be hard pressed finding a first focal plane with that kind of zoom range, with that size objective, with illumination in a 30mm tube. And this is one of the widest field of view scopes in this zoom range that I could find. So I looked at the Leupolds, I've looked at Burris, I've looked at Bushnell. I will never buy a Bushnell product again in my life. I've looked at like some of the Crimson Trace, Vanguards, those kind of scopes, those like somewhat budget scopes under $1,000. I think this is the best scope for a hunting rifle that you can get under $1,000. And I believe they just came out with like a Venom. I want to say it's a Venom, and that is a really good scope too. It's cheaper than this one by a good ways, but it's not illuminated, so that's possibly a route to take. Having illumination definitely doesn't hurt. And then I think there's the Diamondback Tactical line. There's two scopes that are kind of similar in price range and features, and those are also seems to be pretty good, but they do not have such a wide field as this one does. And when you're hunting, I think that's just critical, because you can see, you know, you're not just looking at the deer or the elk, you're also able to see like, oh, there's a really big bush about 10 yards in front of this deer, so I need to make my shot before that deer gets to this bush. Or you're shooting at a bear and you find out, oh, there's a sow with a cub actually, and that's not a boar. Things like that. So having a wider field definitely does not hurt. And I'm willing to pay for less optical clarity to have a wider field. So definitely some of the higher end Vortex stuff probably has a higher or a wider field of view, and I'm not opposed to spending money on a scope. But for $3,000, it's a little steep for most people. For $650, totally achievable for serious hunters that are on a budget. So overall, I'd give this rifle a huge thumbs up. After hunting with it for 5 years and killing deer and killing bears and killing a mountain lion, I don't see the need to upgrade just yet. I would in the near future if I want to do longer shots over 400 yards. 400 is a little long. I'm looking at a 400 yard distance right here, and it's a tough task, but I think this scope can totally do it. This rifle can probably do it if I practiced a little bit more and did some more ammo experiments and maybe some hand loading with this thing. But rifle can definitely do it, I think, with the right shooter behind it. Oh, what else? A few things that I don't know. I should say that I damaged. So when I was messing with the trigger and putting in like lighter pins and removing this little trigger safety in there, I wanted to know if the new trigger weight was safe enough, because I normally carry this rifle chambered with the safety on, and it's in my hands. Very rarely it's on my pack or on my backpack or something. If it is, it's still probably chambered, but I very strongly prioritize keeping the safety on, obviously. But when I was messing with that trigger, I wanted to see if it'll go off accidentally if I drop it. So I had a dead blow mallet that I would just kind of tap on the housing to see if it'll go off. And I guess I tapped a little too hard because I was trying to replicate like a good drop. And I ended up cracking the trigger housing. And so it took a few emails to Ruger to get a new trigger housing sent over to me. But ever since that, which was over 3 years ago. No issues. And then right here, I was doing some hand loading. This is a 270 Winchester. I was doing some hand loading for this rifle, and I loaded up about 30 rounds, and not one of them will chamber in the gun. And so it'll kind of almost chamber, bolt would never lock, and then I would not be able to get that round back. So I pretty much had to yank on that bolt and beat that handle down to get him back out. After trying, 3 or 4 or 5 before I realized they were all bad. And so in that process of slamming that bolt handle back, I ended up ruining and breaking this little bolt catch button. And not a big deal. I emailed Ruger. They're really good about it. I told them it broke. I told them I need a stainless one, so they sent me a stainless, but the new model. So it's a different shape than this one. This is about a 5-year-old rifle. I think 3 years ago they started doing a different button shape. They sent me the new shape, which I told them was wrong. I needed the old shape. So they sent me the old shape, but they sent it in black. So I told them, hey, I need a stainless one in the old shape. So they finally sent me that after months of emails. I finally got it and put that in, and I haven't had any issues since. Overall, I'd give this rifle probably an 8 out of 10. If Ruger fixed their stock issue, I would give them a 9 out of 10. And a 10 out of 10 would be a threaded barrel, probably a fluted barrel, a fluted bolt, a better, more ergonomical pistol grip that's not, your hand's not kinked like that, but actually something you can hold, because when you're shooting, naturally your hand looks like this, not like that. So having a little bit more of a vertical grip would be a little bit nicer too. Plus it'll help with managing recoil, so some of that energy will be transferred into the palm of your hand and down into your arm instead of all of it into your shoulder. I don't have issues shooting this rifle offhand standing with this really nice silicone type rubber butt pad and the adrenaline. I don't have any issues, and I never feel any pain the next day or anything like that. But overall, great rifle. I highly recommend. This setup right here is probably an ideal setup for somebody on a budget that wants to get into hunting and doesn't feel like they need to upgrade in the near future. Getting a stainless is definitely nice here in Montana. I've hiked in the snow. In Washington, I've hiked in the rain. This thing's gotten soaking wet. It's got tree needles in it. It's got tree needles in here, in the bolt, in the trigger. It's got dirt, mud. It's been beat. It's got a little bit of rust here, but I take a little brush once in a while and clean it up when it starts to look a little bit bad. But overall, I'd give this rifle an 8 out of 10. As is, for me, after my little work right here. Without the trigger work and the bolt, it'll probably be like a 7 out of 10. But you can do that yourself really easy. Make this an 8 out of 10 rifle. Get a new stock for this from one of the aftermarket companies. If you can find one, that'll probably be like a 9 out of 10 gun. I wanted to replace the stock on this, but because this is a long action, there aren't too many companies that make aftermarket stocks, and I really wouldn't mind getting one of those Magpul stocks for this, or the Predator, or whatever that Ruger came out with. Really wouldn't mind having that, but they don't make them in long action. The day you make it in long action, I am buying a new stock for this. So Magpul or Remington or whoever makes stocks anymore, keep that in mind. You got money coming your way if you can make a nicer stock for this rifle. Ruger, Macmillan, whoever makes stocks anymore. Christensen Arms. And yeah, I think that's about it. And this scope cover right here, I ended up losing this year. I was bear hunting. I lost it once, found it back at the truck when I got back, and then about a week or two later I lost it again horseback riding, and I was not able to find it. So I contacted Vortex and I said, hey, I lost it while bear hunting. It was my fault. I lost it. There's nothing wrong with it from the factory or anything. They not only sent me a new one a week later, they sent me a sticker pack, and they sent me a 40% off coupon code for their apparel on their website. So that's why I'm wearing this shirt today. Definitely can't go wrong with Vortex, but I'd stick away from the Bushnells, the Burris, the Vanguard, that kind of stuff. For that kind of money, this scope is extremely hard to beat, and I highly recommend it. Now for ammo, I've been hunting with the Hornady stuff ever since I got this rifle. I've used the 130 grain Superformance. I've used the 140 grain Superformance, and this right here is the 145 grain ELDX. Now, ideally I'd be hunting with the 140. I feel like that's a perfect ratio between bullet weight and ballistic drop. It doesn't drop as much as this 145 does, but that one was completely sold out for the last few years over the whole Black Lives Matter rioting crap going on. So I've been forced to go to the 145 ELDX, so this was a little bit easier to find for me for some reason, and the 130 grain Superformance. So I've kind of been bouncing around between those. I did find some of that 140 stuff, and I even tried reloading some of it. And overall, I have no issues with Hornady polymer tipped bullets, so that's kind of what I've been using ever since. So that's in here, and that magazine holds 4 rounds, by the way. This is like a rotary box magazine, holds 4 rounds. This magazine is extremely cheap feeling and plasticky, but 5 years of using this, and this thing actually still looks brand new. So despite it feeling super cheap and feeling kind of junky and like it'll break, mine has actually not broken, and I don't think I've really taken care of this magazine as well as I probably should have. So just a few things to keep in mind. I think somebody looking into a rifle should consider the Ruger American. This is probably the best rifle for how much it costs. I think this one you can get for about $450, $430 on sale. Definitely recommend getting the stainless. It's very easy to clean. It's a lot less needing of cleaning, and it looks really freaking awesome. So thanks for watching, and please like, share, subscribe, follow me on Instagram, Facebook, whatever you want to do. I don't know, I don't really keep up with all that. I don't really know what's trending and what's cool nowadays, but I really enjoy making these videos. I got plenty more coming, so if you got video ideas, if you got comments, questions, definitely throw that in there. I read every single thing and I respond to everything. So I don't get paid for this. I'm not getting free stuff. Definitely wouldn't mind if somebody wants to just give me free gun stuff and optics. I will gladly accept it, but this is going to be an honest channel, and I'm going to give my honest reviews. Even if you pay me, I'm going to give honest reviews. So thanks for watching SawtoothWild, and I will see you next time.